dry cooking techniques, right? So grilling and sauteing and frying and pan frying and all that kind of stuff. And then you saw the videos on the moist cooking techniques, so boiling and poaching and things like that, steaming, all that kind of stuff. If we combine those two together, we get things like braising and stewing and those type things where we combine the dry cooking and the moist cooking together as one. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to do the Irish lamb stew recipe. So I got some bacon that I chopped up. If I can get it to get in here. And we're going to render this bacon down. Remember, that just means that we're going to cook the fat out of it. Make the bacon kind of crispy, okay? And then we're going to take it out and we're going to add it back in just a little bit. I've got, this is lamb, leg of lamb. And we get it what we call BRT, which means boned, rolled, and tied. So it's a whole leg. They take the bone out, and they roll it back up, and then they tie it up so it stays together. So it's BRT. All right, and all I did is I just took it and I cut it into like these little cubes, okay? And so we're gonna put these in a bowl here. And I have, give this a little stir. I have some seasoned flour. And we're just going to toss these in our flour. This is going to help to sear everything off, okay? When we sear it all off here in just a minute, it's going to help it to do that. All right. So anytime we're doing a moist or a combination cooking technique, generally we are, not always, but generally we're dealing with tougher cuts of meat. Okay. And so we're going to really kind of slow cook those tough cuts of meat so that we make them tender. All right, so that's kind of the idea. The leg of the lamb, remember we said that anytime we get the furthest from the head and the hoof is going to be the most tender. So obviously the leg's going to be moving a lot. It's going to be a lot more tough. It's going to require a longer cooking technique. Okay, so that braising and the stewing will do that for us, okay? All right. We got our bacon. It's getting crispy. This is a Dutch oven, okay? And these are back in the dry storage room. It's a Dutch oven. It's a cast iron pot, and then they've been coated in this enamel ceramic, okay? And so it's it kind of helps to make it a little more non-stick, a little more durable. They're very heavy, so be careful carrying them around and stuff because they are heavy. And even though they're metal, if you drop them, they'll probably bust in half, okay? So you got to kind of be careful with them. They also get very hot and they hold their heat really well. That's part of what we like about them so much. They hold their heat really, really well. So you have to kind of keep an eye on your heat because once it starts heating up, that's going to go very quickly and it's going to stay hot. All right. So our bacon looking nice and crisp. We've rendered out a lot of the fat that's in the bacon. There we go. We're going to use this fat. If there's not a lot of fat in there, we can add a little bit of oil to it, okay? But there is. So we're gonna add some of our beef here. Might have to do this in 2 batches, and that's fine. And we're just gonna sear this off, okay? Just gonna sear it off, start to brown it up real nice. There's a couple of things ingredient-wise that we weren't able to get, so it's gonna call for leeks. They didn't have any leeks. And it's gonna call for pearl onions at the end. They didn't have any pearl onions, and so that'll be okay. The rest of the ingredients, we've got a yellow onion diced up, a little bit of oil if we need it, beef stock, water, sugar, potatoes, carrots, rutabagas. Y'all had rutabagas before? It's another root vegetable. So we got 3 root vegetables, a little bit of white wine, a little bit of fresh thyme, and bay leaf that'll go in. So that's starting to brown up. I'm gonna grab something to put it in. So that's looking pretty good. We'll pull this batch and set that over there. If you need a little bit more oil in your pan, put a little bit of oil in there. And we put the last bit of our beef. We'll give that just a minute to brown off. And we're gonna cook this for a long time, so we're not quite as concerned right now about getting it cooked through, right? And we know it's gonna be tough, so it's gonna take a long time to cook. It'll cook all the way through, and then it'll get tender for us. When you hear the term braising and stewing, you can generally think if we're gonna braise something, we're gonna have liquid in there about 3/4 of the way up the product. So like the Catalina chicken that we do today. You make your braising liquid, and it goes about halfway, 3/4 of the way up, and then that chicken just kind of simmers in that for a while to get cooked all the way through. If you think about stewing, then you're going to think that you're going to completely submerge the product in the liquid. And let it simmer for a while. All right, so we're getting close. How many of you or your parents have like a crock pot at home? Right? You got a crock pot at home, put a roast or something in there, put some liquid in there, maybe some vegetables, let it cook all day long, and then you got like this real tender roast. That's braising. That's all it is, okay? So it's the same exact thing, same exact concept as what we're going to be doing today. We're just going to do it on a stove and not in a crock pot. So So that looks pretty good. We're gonna take this out. You can let it get a little bit more brown if you want to. All kind of wonderful flavor kind of stuck to our bottom of the pan right now. And we're going to get that up here in just a second. We're going to add a touch more oil because it's a little dry in there. We're going to add onions. You can throw in a little garlic now if you'd like to. I'm going to cook these onions for just a few minutes until they just start to brown up just a little bit. And then we're going to use our beef stock, which we have here, and a little bit of water, and we're going to deglaze this pan. So we're gonna pour the liquid in. That's gonna pull up all the stuff on the bottom of the pan. That's called fond. Has a lot of flavor in it. So we'll add this and our little bit of water. And just kind of use your spoon and just scrape along the bottom here. Pull some of that up. Calls for just a little bit of sugar to help balance the flavors. We're going to add some of our beef back in now. Okay, like so. Go ahead and add all that. And now what we want to do, we're going to kind of turn our heat down. We're gonna put our lid on, and I'm gonna leave it a little cracked. And that way, it can start to slow cook and stew in there, right? So it's got the liquid in. We're gonna get it tender, and then we're gonna start adding our root vegetables in just a little while. So if we add them right now, while it takes them a while to cook, if we add them right now, they're going to be mushy by the time the beef is done. Okay, so we get the beef most of the way cooked. We can add our carrots. We can then add our potatoes. Then we'll add our rutabagas at the end because the rutabagas came in already diced up, frozen, so they're already pretty soft. Okay, so we really just kind of got to heat them through. The other two will take a little bit longer to cook. Okay, so we will let that cook, and then we'll come back and look at it. Okay, so our lamb has been cooking. We have added our bacon back in. Lamb is starting to get tender. So we're going to add the first of our root vegetables, which is going to be our carrots. They are the most dense, and they're going to take the longest to cook. So we're going to add those in first. I'm going to give those just a few minutes, and then we will add our potatoes. They'll cook for about 10 minutes, and then we will add our rutabagas and let those heat through. And then we can finish off with our herbs and our wine at the end. So we will let that cook and come back and check on it shortly. So we're ready to add our potatoes. I've had them soaking in water just so they didn't turn brown on me. So we're gonna just add these directly in, like so. And it'll take about 10 minutes and they'll start getting soft, and then we'll be ready to add our rutabagas. So we will check back on that in just a moment. Our potatoes are getting soft. Our carrots are getting soft. The lamb is getting nice and tender. Now ready to add our rutabagas in. We're going to stir those in. We're also going to add, and some jump out of the pan. We're also going to add our fresh herbs. This will be some fresh thyme, as well as bay leaf, and a little bit of white wine to finish it off. We're going to let this simmer together for just a few more minutes. And it will be done. And there you have it. That's it. That is the final stew. Our Irish lamb stew. Everything is nice and tender. The root vegetables are cooked really well. Check the seasoning, make sure it's good, and we are all set.